The soft glow of the Hogwarts lanterns flickered through the corridors as the evening settled in, casting long shadows across the stone walls. It was a quiet, peaceful night, one of those rare moments when the castle seemed to exhale, when the bustling sounds of students and teachers faded away, leaving only the soothing hum of ancient magic. The air was still, filled with the soft scent of parchment and the faintest trace of old, forgotten spells. The sort of magic that lingered, not loud and commanding, but soft and secretive, like a whisper you only half heard before it slipped away. Somewhere deep within the castle, hidden behind the everyday rhythm of school life, something stirred. It wasn't a loud, dramatic event. It was far subtler than that. A soft flicker of movement, a gentle hum that barely disturbed the calm. But Harry Potter, standing in one of the castle's many corridors, felt it. A pull, faint and unexplainable, like a thread tugging at him from the very heart of Hogwarts itself. It had always been like this, ever since he first set foot in the magical world. There was something about the castle that made him feel alive with wonder, as if there were still so many secrets hidden in its walls, just waiting for him to discover. The warmth of the Gryffindor common room beckoned in the distance, but Harry found himself pausing, looking toward the forbidden corridors where mysteries often awaited. He had always been drawn to these quiet corners, where the magic felt deeper, older, and more mysterious. Tonight, though, the sense of wonder felt different, more tangible. He wasn't sure what it was, but something told him he was about to uncover a secret that had been buried for centuries, something connected to Hogwarts' past, perhaps even something connected to him. The corridor was still, the only sound the soft echo of his footsteps on the stone floor. The gentle breeze from an open window drifted through, carrying the soft scent of rain from outside. It was a serene night, the kind where the world felt peaceful, and the faintest ripple of magic was all it took to make things feel alive again. Harry took a deep breath, and as he did, he felt the familiar pull in his chest. His thoughts drifted to the many adventures he had experienced here at Hogwarts, to the mysteries he had already uncovered. But even after all this time, the castle had more to offer, more secrets to unfold. As he walked toward the entrance to the dungeons, something unexpected caught his eye. There, just ahead, at the base of the stairs leading deeper into the lower levels of Hogwarts, was a soft, glimmering light. It wasn't bright, but it was unmistakable, like the faint shimmer of something ancient, something magical, waiting to be noticed. Harry stopped. He wasn't sure what it was, or why it called to him, but his instincts told him to follow it. And so, he did. Little did he know, this gentle pull would lead him to a discovery, a soft, subtle adventure unlike any other he had experienced before, one that would uncover a piece of Hogwarts' lost magic and lead him to something hidden by the founders themselves. The Slytherin Ring that had long been forgotten. As Harry moved closer to the shimmering light at the base of the stairs, he felt a familiar warmth settle in his chest. Hogwarts had always been a place of comfort, even in its most mysterious corners. The cool stone beneath his feet, The gentle hum of magic in the walls and the soft flickering lanterns overhead were all things that had been part of his life for years. And yet, there was always something new to discover, something waiting but beyond the surface. Ron Weasley, his loyal and ever-curious best friend, had always been by Harry's side in moments like these. The two of them had ventured into countless hidden corners of the castle over the years, chasing down mysteries, following every trail of magic they could find. Ron, with his characteristic mix of bravery and skepticism, was Harry's constant companion in these adventures. But tonight, Harry was alone, and there was something about the solitude that felt different. It felt like the castle itself was inviting him to uncover something new, something just for him. Harry's thoughts drifted to the last few months. Life had calmed down considerably since the great battles they had faced. The echoes of the past had faded into peaceful days of learning, of revisiting old friends, of quiet nights in the common room by the fire. But even now, after all they had been through, there were times when Harry felt like something was still missing. He knew he wasn't the only one who felt it, the sense that the magic around them was more than just what they had learned in class or what they'd experienced during the darker times. There was a history, an untold story waiting to be uncovered. As Harry turned the corner, moving past the familiar tapestry that hid the entrance to the dungeons, he thought of Ron and Hermione, his two closest friends. Ron's infectious enthusiasm and easygoing nature made him a constant source of comfort. He had always been the one to crack a joke, to lighten the mood, no matter how tense things got. Harry couldn't imagine going through his life, let alone his adventures, without him. And then there was Hermione, sharp, insightful Hermione, who had always been the voice of reason in their trio. She was the one who'd always taken care of the details, who'd encouraged Harry to think carefully about the magic they encountered, to be responsible. She had helped him navigate some of the most difficult decisions of his life, and her friendship had been a constant source of strength. Even now, with the weight of so many unanswered questions pressing down on him, he could almost hear her voice in his head, urging him to proceed with caution, to think things through. But tonight, it wasn't Ron or Hermione who stood beside him. It was just Harry, with the soft, familiar pull of Hogwarts guiding him forward. The quiet, secret magic of the castle was calling to him again, as it always had. And tonight, Harry was determined to follow where it would lead. His fingers brushed the stone wall as he continued down the corridor, a small, confident smile creeping onto his face. He felt the same sense of excitement he had felt all those years ago when he had first set foot in Hogwarts. The magic, the mystery, the adventure, it was all still there, waiting for him. And though the answers weren't clear yet, Harry knew that this was just the beginning of another adventure, one that would reveal the forgotten magic of Slytherin, and perhaps even change his understanding of the past. As he reached the bottom of the stairs, the shimmer of light ahead grew brighter, almost as if it were inviting him in. A deep breath escaped Harry's lips. This was it. He was about to uncover something that had been hidden since the time of the Founders. The glow at the base of the stairs intensified as Harry moved closer, and a shiver of excitement, mixed with a hint of trepidation, ran down his spine. It wasn't like any light he had seen before at Hogwarts. There was something soft and ancient about it, like a secret waiting to be uncovered. His footsteps echoed in the stillness of the corridor, growing louder as he approached the source of the light. It seemed to pulse with an energy all its own, rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, slow, steady, but undeniably alive. As Harry rounded the last curve of the stone staircase, the source of the glow became clearer. The light was coming from a small pedestal, standing alone in the center of a circular room he had never seen before. It was tucked deep within the dungeons, hidden from view, as though it had always been there, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The room itself was ancient, the walls lined with worn tapestries and cobwebs that had gathered with the passage of centuries. There was a feeling of quiet reverence in the air, as if this place had been left untouched for a reason. The pedestal was carved from dark stone, intricately detailed with swirling patterns and symbols that Harry didn't recognize. Atop the pedestal rested a ring, a large silver band, gleaming softly in the magical light. It was the source of the glow. The ring was not just any ring. It was unique. The design was unmistakable, a serpent winding around the circumference of the band, its eyes set with small emeralds. The serpent's tail curled toward the ring's center, and the entire piece shimmered with an otherworldly aura. Harry stood there for a moment, staring at the ring in awe. He could feel the magic radiating from it, the familiar pull of ancient enchantments that felt both soothing and thrilling. There was no mistaking it. This was something important, something deeply connected to the very heart of Hogwarts, perhaps to the legacy of Salazar Slytherin himself. The ring felt significant, almost as if it were waiting for Harry to reach out and claim it. But there was a hesitation in him, a flicker of doubt. He had learned enough over the years to know that not all magical objects were as harmless as they appeared. Even so, this ring didn't seem dangerous. It was inviting him, quietly urging him to come closer. Harry's hand hovered in the air before the pedestal, the magic in the room pulsing with the same gentle rhythm as his heartbeat. He slowly extended his fingers, the tips just brushing the edge of the ring. The moment his skin made contact with the cool metal, a strange warmth flooded his hand. The glow of the ring flared for a second, brighter than before, then settled into a soft, steady light. For a brief instant, Harry felt a rush of images flood his mind, flashbacks of ancient Slytherin halls, echoes of voices long gone, whispers of secrets hidden deep within the walls of Hogwarts. The images were fleeting, but vivid, like memories belonging to someone else. He felt a sense of both wonder and fear, as though he were peering into a past that had been locked away for a reason. The ring felt heavier in his hand than it had appeared at first, as if it had absorbed the weight of centuries. The serpent on the band seemed to shift, its emerald eyes glinting brightly as though they were watching him. Harry's heart quickened, and he could almost feel the weight of the magic binding the ring to the very essence of Hogwarts. As the ring's magic settled, Harry heard a soft whisper, a voice, faint and almost drowned by the hum of the ancient enchantments in the room. "The Slytherin Ring has been found." Harry's breath caught in his chest. The voice was barely audible, but it felt familiar, as though it had come from the very walls around him. His mind raced. The Slytherin Ring. He had read about it in the history books, about Salazar Slytherin's legendary affinity for serpents and his connection to the dark arts. The ring was said to have been passed down through generations, a key to unlocking Slytherin's secrets. But why had it appeared now? And why had it chosen him? Before Harry could process the thoughts racing through his mind, the ring pulsed again, this time sending a faint tremor through the room. The walls seemed to shimmer, as though reality itself was bending, and for a moment, Harry felt as though he were no longer in the dungeons of Hogwarts, but somewhere far older, perhaps in the very halls of Slytherin's time. The chamber around him faded, replaced by a vast, dimly lit hall. The walls were adorned with banners bearing the same serpent design as the ring. At the end of the hall, a grand throne sat, empty but regal. Harry's breath came faster as the vision unfolded before him. There was a figure, tall and cloaked in shadow, sitting upon the throne. Though the figure's face was hidden beneath a dark hood, Harry could feel their presence, an overwhelming power radiating from them. The figure raised a hand, and the room seemed to come alive, the air charged with an energy that was both intoxicating and unsettling. "The one who bears the ring will unlock what has been sealed," the figure's voice echoed through the hall, a deep, resonant tone that seemed to reverberate in the very core of Harry's being. Suddenly, the vision blurred. The hall, the throne, and the figure all faded as quickly as they had appeared. Harry blinked and found himself in the dark dungeon, the ring still in his hand, its soft glow now dimming. The room around him was as it had been before, the stone walls, the cobwebbed tapestries, the pedestal, but the air felt different now. He felt a sense of both weight and clarity, as though something deep inside him had shifted. The vision was gone, but the feeling lingered. The whispering voice from before returned, faint but clear. "The ring binds you to the legacy. Only you can choose how to wield its power." Harry slowly placed the ring back on the pedestal, his heart still racing. He wasn't sure what the vision meant, or why the ring had chosen to reveal itself to him, but he knew one thing: it was not an ordinary object, nor was it something that should be taken lightly. The magic surrounding it was far too powerful, and the responsibility it carried felt like a burden he wasn't sure he was ready to bear. As the light from the ring dimmed, the room seemed to settle into a calm, almost reverent stillness. Harry stood there for a long moment, trying to gather his thoughts. His fingers still tingled from the ring's touch, and the faint echo of the voice in his mind lingered, like a gentle reminder of the choice he had been given. The Slytherin Ring wasn't just a relic. It was a key to something much larger, something ancient and powerful, and perhaps something that had been waiting for him all along. He stepped back from the pedestal, his gaze lingering on the ring. A new sense of determination filled him, one that seemed to come not just from the ring, but from the very heart of Hogwarts. It was as though the castle itself had chosen this moment to reveal its deepest secret to him. With a final glance at the pedestal, Harry turned and made his way back to the entrance of the hidden room. The soft glow of the lanterns flickered as he walked, casting long shadows along the stone walls. He wasn't sure where the ring's path would take him, but he knew it would lead to something important, something that would change everything. He had uncovered a part of Hogwarts' history, but now the true journey was about to begin. And somehow, he knew that he wasn't the only one who would be affected by it. As Harry stepped back from the pedestal, a strange stillness filled the air. The glow from the Slytherin Ring dimmed, and the room returned to its quiet, ancient state. The sense of urgency that had been pulling at Harry's heart, the connection he felt to the ring, seemed to fade away. The whispering voice, which had once filled his mind with such certainty, was now silent. But even as the immediate tension in the room subsided, Harry couldn't shake the feeling that something had irrevocably changed. He glanced around the chamber one last time, his thoughts racing. The ring, its symbolism, the cryptic voice, all of it felt connected to something deeper, something long buried beneath the surface of Hogwarts' history. And yet, as he walked back toward the entrance, his fingers still tingled with the faint trace of magic, and his heart carried the weight of the decision yet to come. The ring had chosen him, but Harry couldn't fully grasp what it meant. The room, the power of the ring, it was all a mystery, a puzzle he needed to solve. But there was one thing he was certain of. The path ahead wasn't just about uncovering ancient magic. It was about understanding it, knowing how to wield it, or whether it should be wielded at all. He needed to speak with Ron, with Hermione. He needed their guidance. The three of them had always worked together, trusting in each other's instincts, and Harry knew that the journey ahead wouldn't be something he could face alone. As he reached the door, the faintest shimmer caught his eye. It was so subtle that at first, Harry thought it was a trick of the dim light in the room. But as he turned toward the source, his heart skipped a beat. There, on the wall to his right, the stone was shifting, not crumbling, not breaking, but subtly warping, the very surface of the wall rippling, as if it were made of water. Harry's breath caught in his throat, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. This was no ordinary illusion. It was something far deeper, an ancient magic awakening in response to the ring. Before he could react, the wall before him shuddered, and a faint crack appeared, widening like the opening of a door. The stone was moving, shifting to reveal something behind it, a hidden passage that had been sealed for centuries. The soft light of the lanterns flickered, casting long shadows as the passage slowly widened, the air inside heavy with the scent of dust and old magic. Harry stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing with questions. Was this part of the ring's magic? Had the opening of the ring unlocked more than just a relic? It had triggered some long-forgotten doorway, a path that had been sealed away by the founders themselves. The passage seemed to call to him, beckoning him forward, just as the ring had done. A soft voice echoed in his mind again, not the whisper from before, but something gentler, more reassuring. The path is open, Harry Potter. The choice is yours. The words were faint, like a distant echo, but Harry understood them clearly. The path before him was not a mistake, nor was it simply a trick of the light. It was real, and it had been waiting for someone to uncover it. He had made the first step, finding the Slytherin Ring, but now the next step was being revealed to him. He took a deep breath, his hand still resting near the door that had opened in front of him. He could feel the magic swirling around him, filling the air with an energy that was both comforting and disconcerting. He needed to know more, to understand what this passage meant, what it had been hiding all these years. With a quiet resolve, Harry stepped forward, crossing the threshold into the hidden passage. The cool, ancient air hit him instantly, a chill that seemed to seep into his very bones. He had been here before, inside the castle, hidden in its forgotten corners, but this felt different. This wasn't a place meant for everyday wizards. This was a place of power, a place where old, untold secrets had been locked away, waiting for someone worthy to unlock them. The passage was narrow, winding, and winding again as it descended deeper into the bowels of the castle. The walls were made of stone, but as Harry moved further, they began to feel different, slick, almost as if the stone were covered in a layer of something magical, something otherworldly. The soft glow of his lantern barely illuminated the walls ahead, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch with each step he took. It wasn't long before Harry reached a small, round chamber at the end of the passage. The room was empty, except for a pedestal in the center, much like the one where the Slytherin Ring had rested. On the pedestal lay another object, though this one was different from the ring. It was a small, ancient-looking book, bound in dark leather that had aged with time. The cover was marked with the same serpent design that had appeared on the ring, its eyes gleaming with a faint, eerie glow. Harry felt his pulse quicken. This was it, the source of the power, the missing piece of the puzzle. The book was no ordinary book. It was something more, something tied to the very heart of the founder's magic. This was a key to understanding what had been hidden for so long. As he approached the pedestal, a sudden chill swept through the room. The temperature dropped so rapidly that Harry could see his breath mist in the air, though he could feel no breeze. The shadows in the room deepened, and a soft, eerie whisper filled the air. "You seek the knowledge, but are you prepared to understand it?" Harry's heart skipped a beat. The voice seemed to come from all around him, echoing off the walls, but when he looked, there was no one there. It wasn't an unfamiliar sensation. It was the same feeling he had experienced when the Slytherin Ring had first called to him. The magic was alive here, aware of him, waiting for him to make the next step. Without hesitation, Harry reached out, his fingers brushing the book's cover. The moment his skin made contact with the leather, a sudden jolt of magic surged through him, filling him with a rush of sensations, flashes of ancient spells, visions of the founders as they had been in their time, their hands raised in unison, their power intertwined in a way that could not be broken. The magic coursed through him like a current, both exhilarating and terrifying at once. The room around him seemed to pulse with life, the walls rippling as the book's magic began to awaken. Harry could hear the faint sound of chanting in a language he didn't understand, and the book's cover seemed to glow brighter with each passing second. And then, with a sharp intake of breath, Harry understood. The book wasn't just a book, it was a spell book, a guide to unlocking the true power of the Founder's legacy. Each page, each word, held a part of the magic they had created, a magic that had been passed down through generations. It was a magic that could shape the future, but it was also one that could destroy everything if misused. The voice returned, softer this time, almost gentle. "You have unlocked the door, Harry Potter. The legacy is yours to decide." For a long moment, Harry stood there, holding the book, his fingers trembling with the weight of what had been revealed to him. He had always seeking knowledge, but now that it was within his grasp, he understood the true cost of this discovery. This magic, the power it held, it was both a gift and a burden, and he was the one chosen to decide what would be done with it. The air around him seemed to settle, the temperature returning to normal as the whispers faded away. The room, though still mysterious and charged with magic, no longer felt overwhelming. The book, still glowing softly in his hands, now felt like a key, one that could open doors to untold power. But Harry knew that not at all doors should be opened, not at all magic should be wielded. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes, knowing that the choice ahead would not be easy. The past had come alive before him, and now it was his turn to decide how its legacy would shape the future. With the book in his hands, Harry knew that the journey was far from over, but he would face it with the courage, the wisdom, and the heart of a true Gryffindor. The book in Harry's hands seemed to pulse with an energy all its own, as if the ancient pages contained not just words, but the very essence of Slytherin's magic. As the glow from the serpent-engraved cover began to settle into a soft, steady radiance, Harry felt a shift in the atmosphere around him. It was subtle, like the air had thickened just slightly, like the castle itself was holding its breath. For a moment, Harry stood perfectly still, the weight of the book pressing into his hands, the ancient pages so delicate under his touch. He had uncovered something more than just a forgotten relic of the Founders. This was something far greater. The magic surrounding the book was not merely contained within the inked words, but woven into the very fabric of the parchment itself, waiting to be unlocked. With a deep, steadying breath, Harry gently opened the cover of the book. A soft, crackling sound filled the room as the first page slowly turned, revealing delicate writing in an ancient script. The letters shimmered faintly, almost as though they were alive. The room, still quiet, seemed to hum with a soft, expectant energy, as if it too was waiting for Harry to uncover what lay within. He scanned the page, his eyes tracing the curling letters as they danced before him. Some of the symbols were unfamiliar, but others, particularly the ones that had been carved into the pedestal earlier, seemed to echo through his mind, as if they were calling out to him from deep within the recesses of his memory. As Harry's eyes moved across the page, he began to recognize something familiar about the words, a strange sense of déjà vu creeping into his thoughts. The text wasn't just about magic. It was a history of Salazar Slytherin's legacy, an account of his deepest secrets, hidden away for centuries. But this history wasn't written just for posterity. It was a map, a guide to unlocking the full power of the Slytherin Ring, the very thing that had led him to this moment. The book was more than just a record of the past. It was a living, breathing artifact of the founder's time, and as Harry read further, the room seemed to shift again. It was subtle at first, just a soft change in the air, a fleeting ripple, but then, as his eyes continued to trace the words, the atmosphere grew more tangible. The walls around him seemed to darken, not in a threatening way, but in a way that made the room feel older, more ancient, like the shadows of the past were stretching out toward him. The air around Harry became thick with magic, and he could almost hear the whisper of ancient voices speaking in low tones. Faint, indistinct murmurs at first, but then gradually growing clearer, as though the book itself was beginning to speak to him. The words, now unmistakable, filled the space around him, resonating deep in his chest. You have unlocked the door, Harry Potter. The voice was not physical, not something spoken aloud. It was a thought, a presence inside his mind. It was calm, but there was something unsettling about the way it seemed to settle into his very being. As the words echoed through him, Harry felt a small shiver run down his spine. The book wasn't just guiding him through a history, it was offering him something more, something that had been waiting for him to come. The room around him pulsed with a quiet energy, and Harry felt a compulsion to continue reading. His fingers trembled slightly as he turned the next page, the soft rustling of the paper filling the room. Each word, each line, seemed to draw him deeper into the mystery. The ink seemed to shimmer in the soft light, almost as though the letters themselves were alive, moving in time with his heartbeat. As Harry read on, the book's magic began to weave itself around him, filling him with a sense of quiet power. The words described the creation of a secret chamber beneath Hogwarts, a place where the founders had hidden their most dangerous and most powerful magic. But the chamber was not just a place, it was a key to unlocking a hidden legacy, a power that had been sealed away for centuries, waiting for the right person to find it. The book hinted at the existence of the Slytherin Ring's counterpart, another artifact, hidden deep within the castle, that could amplify the power of the ring itself. The two artifacts were linked, their magic intertwined, and together they could unlock the full potential of Salazar Slytherin's vision. The words on the page grew clearer, more urgent, as though the book was urging Harry to find this hidden chamber, to unlock the secrets it held. But with the power came a warning. The words that followed were softer, almost like a whisper, like a cautionary tale passed down through the ages. The key is dangerous, Harry Potter. It has the power to change everything, but it is not meant to be wielded lightly. Harry paused, his fingers still resting on the page, his breath caught in his throat. The warning was clear. The magic he was uncovering wasn't just a relic to be studied. It was a force to be reckoned with, a power that could shape the future of wizardkind. The weight of it pressed down on him, and for the first time in a long while, Harry felt the full extent of the responsibility he was carrying. This wasn't just about solving a mystery. It was about making a choice, a choice that would affect not just him, but everyone around him. The room seemed to grow darker as the text continued to unfold, the shadows growing longer as the words filled his mind. The deeper Harry read, the more the magic seemed to envelop him. The air was thick with it now, heavy with the knowledge that he was on the verge of something monumental. But with the excitement came fear, the fear of what might happen if the ring's power fell into the wrong hands. Just as Harry turned the next page, the book gave a final, gentle pulse of magic. The room seemed to breathe with him, and in that instant, he understood. The secret chamber, the true heart of Slytherin's magic, was real. It was waiting for him to find it, to unlock the power that lay hidden within Hogwarts. The Slytherin Ring was only the first step, the key to discovering something far greater. But the choice, as the book had warned, was his. A sudden thought struck Harry. Why me? Why had he, of all people, been chosen to uncover these secrets? The ring had called to him, and now the book seemed to beckon him toward the next step. It was as if the castle itself had been waiting for him to unlock this piece of its history, to carry the burden of its past into the future. Harry closed the book gently, his heart still racing with the weight of the knowledge he had uncovered. The soft glow from the pedestal flickered, and for a moment, the room felt eerily still. He wasn't sure what to do next, or what the future held. But he knew one thing for sure. The magic of the Founders wasn't something that could be taken lightly. The chamber, the ring, the book, they were all part of something much larger, something that would guide him down a path filled with both wonder and danger. The whispers in the room faded as Harry stood, his hand still resting on the book's cover. He felt the pull of the magic, urging him forward, but there was a part of him, something deep within, that hesitated. The secrets he had uncovered were powerful, but they were also dangerous, and as Harry turned to leave the room, the door closed silently behind him, sealing away the secrets of the past once again, for now. The path ahead was uncertain, and the choice was his to make. But one thing was clear. Whatever lay ahead, Harry knew that he was no longer simply a student at Hogwarts. He was a part of something much larger, a legacy that had been waiting for him to uncover it. And so, with the book in hand and the ring still hidden beneath his robes, Harry set out into the quiet halls of Hogwarts once more, his thoughts swirling with the knowledge that the adventure, the true adventure, was only just beginning. The soft echoes of Harry's footsteps reverberated through the darkened hallways of Hogwarts as he made his way back from the hidden room. The ancient book, still warm in his hands, felt heavier than it had when he first picked it up. The weight of its knowledge, its secrets, pressed against his chest, as if urging him to understand more. Yet, the deeper he delved into its contents, the more he realized just how much remained a mystery. The whispers from the book still rang in his mind, warnings, promises, and a sense of quiet urgency. The path is open, Harry Potter. The choice is yours. As he walked, Harry's thoughts swirled. The Slytherin Ring, the secret chamber, the book. It was all tied to something much larger than he had imagined. But what did it mean for him? What was the true purpose of the legacy he had uncovered? The whispers in the chamber, the pull of the magic. It was all leading him somewhere. But where? And more importantly, was he truly prepared for what he might find? He could feel the familiar presence of Hogwarts surrounding him, the towering walls, the flickering lanterns, the soft hum of magic that filled the castle like a heartbeat. This place had been his home for years, a place of comfort, adventure, and even danger, but tonight it felt different. The castle seemed more alive, more aware of him than ever before. The weight of the secrets it held was not something Harry could ignore. He felt as though he were standing at the threshold of something vast and unknowable, a journey that stretched out before him with no clear end. As he passed the grand staircase and neared the entrance to the Gryffindor Tower, Harry spotted Ron sitting by the fire, his bright red hair glistening in the golden glow of the hearth. Ron had a habit of staying up late, lost in his own thoughts or reading something he'd borrowed from the library. But tonight, as Harry approached, he could see that Ron was staring into the flames, a faraway look in his eyes. Ron noticed Harry's approach and looked up, a slight frown furrowing his brow. "Oi, Harry," he said, his voice sounding tired but warm. "What's up? You look like you've been on one of your, I don't know, adventures again." Harry smiled slightly, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. He had always been able to talk to Ron, and tonight he needed that connection. He needed to share what he'd discovered, to make sense of it all. But even as he opened his mouth to speak, he hesitated. The knowledge from the book felt too big, too overwhelming to explain in a few sentences. Ron could only understand so much, and Harry wasn't sure he was ready to face the full weight of it yet. Instead, Harry set the book down gently on the table next to Ron, and his friend looked at it with a raised eyebrow. "What's this?" Ron asked, his tone light but curious. Harry started, but his voice faltered. "I found something, Ron. Something big." His fingers brushed the edges of the book, still half in disbelief. He couldn't bring himself to share all of the details yet, but the ring, the chamber, the ancient magic, it all seemed too much to grasp at once. He needed time to process it himself. Ron, ever the perceptive friend, looked at him closely, a slight concern knitting his brow. "You've been quiet for a while now. What happened?" Harry sighed, his shoulders sinking with the weight of what he had just experienced. He felt a deep pull in his chest, a mixture of excitement and dread. He was being asked to make a decision, but what kind of decision was it? The more he thought about it, the more his mind felt like it was unraveling. "I don't even know where to start," Harry said softly, looking at the flickering fire. "I found something tonight, something that's connected to the founders. It's the Slytherin Ring, one of the founders' heirlooms. And there's this book, this magic. I don't even know how to explain it, Ron. It's like the whole history of Hogwarts is unfolding right before me, but I can't make sense of it." Ron frowned, sitting up a traitor in his chair. "What's the catch? What's really going on here, Harry? You don't look like you're just talking about a treasure hunt or a hidden vault. Something's off." Harry ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. "The magic I felt tonight, it's different, Ron. It feels like a responsibility, like the entire castle is waiting for me to unlock something. The book, the ring, they're connected to a power a choice that only I can make." Ron sat in silence for a moment, absorbing Harry's words. Then, in his typical straightforward manner, he gave a small shrug. "Well, if anyone can handle it, it's you, mate. You've been through far worse." But Harry could tell Ron wasn't completely convinced. He knew his friend well enough to see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. Ron didn't say anything else, but Harry could sense the weight of his unspoken concern. "You don't understand, Ron. This isn't like the things we've faced before," Harry said, his voice low. "It's something ancient. The founders knew it, and they sealed it away for a reason. This ring, this book, they're tied to something bigger. I don't know what it is yet, but it feels like the beginning of something much larger than I can comprehend." Ron blinked at him, then nodded slowly. "I get it. It sounds important, but you don't have to face it alone. You never do." He paused, eyes flickering to the book once more. "Whatever this is, you're not in it by yourself. We'll help you figure it out. All of us." Harry felt a rush of warmth flood through him. It was the reassurance he needed, the reminder that, no matter how daunting the journey ahead might seem, he didn't have to face it alone. But even as Ron's words comforted him, Harry knew that the final decision was his to make. The magic, the power, it had come to him for a reason, and only he could decide how to wield it. "I know," Harry said quietly, his gaze drifting toward the book again, "but this isn't something I can just walk away from. I don't know what the founders wanted me to do with this magic, but I have to make a choice. I need to know what it all means." Ron leaned forward, his face full of concern. "What kind of choice, Harry? What's this magic really about?" "I don't know yet," Harry admitted, standing up from the table and walking slowly toward the window. The night sky outside was clear, the stars sparkling like distant promises. "But I think it's tied to Salazar Slytherin's legacy, to Hogwarts, maybe even to me." He paused, his voice growing soft. "The ring, the book, it feels like destiny, and that's the part that scares me the most." Ron stood and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Well, whatever it is, you don't have to make the decision alone. You never have to, and I'm sure you'll figure it out, Harry. You always do." Harry turned to face Ron, a small but genuine smile tugging at the corners of his lips. The warmth of his friend's support filled him with quiet strength, grounding him in a moment that had been so full of uncertainty. The choice ahead was daunting, but Harry knew that with Ron and Hermione by his side, he would be able to navigate whatever lay ahead. The decision still loomed before him, one that would not only affect his own future, but the future of Hogwarts itself. Yet, even in the face of this unknown magic, Harry felt a renewed sense of purpose. The legacy of the founders, the weight of their hidden power, it was a legacy he could no longer ignore. As Harry sat down at the table, his fingers tracing the edges of the book again, he made a silent promise to himself he would choose carefully. The magic was ancient, and it was dangerous, but it was also a gift, one that had come to him for a reason. Whatever happened next, Harry knew one thing for sure: he wouldn't face it alone. The quiet crackling of the fire in the Gryffindor common room barely registered in Harry's mind as he sat, the book from the hidden chamber open in front of him. The room around him felt so familiar, comforting, warm, filled with the soft sounds of students chatting and laughing as they studied or relaxed. But despite the peaceful atmosphere, Harry couldn't shake the sense of urgency that had settled over him since discovering the Slytherin Ring and the ancient book. It was as if everything in the castle was quietly waiting for him to unlock something, to make a decision that would shape everything that followed. Ron had retreated to his bed, content to leave Harry to his thoughts. Hermione had left earlier in the day for an extra study session in the library. And now, in the solitude of the common room, Harry was left alone with the book, the ancient, mysterious artifact that had already begun to reveal so much. His fingers lingered on the pages, tracing the symbols, the intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with magic, but the meaning still eluded him. The book wasn't just a record of Slytherin's history. It was a guide to something much more profound, a key to understanding a hidden power deep within Hogwarts. But Harry didn't just want to understand the magic, he needed to. He had to make sense of it all. The voice from the chamber, the words in the book, and the way everything seemed to be pulling him toward the next step. There was no turning back now. And yet, every step forward felt like stepping into a world of shadows, where he didn't fully understand the consequences of his choices. His fingers turned another page, and this time, the words on the page began to feel different. They weren't just words, they were a revelation, a deeper understanding of what the founders had left behind. The magic they had sealed away, the ring, the book, everything was part of a much larger puzzle. The founders had known that one day, someone would have to choose what to do with this power, someone who could understand it and use it wisely. The text on the page seemed to glow, the letters shifting and rearranging themselves as though they were coming alive. Harry's breath caught in his chest as the words became clearer, more vivid. The chamber of the serpent holds the key to Slytherin's true magic, hidden beneath the roots of the castle. The one who bears the ring will unlock its power, but only when they have made the choice to wield it for the right purpose. The room seemed to shift, the very walls vibrating as the words settled into Harry's mind. The chamber of the serpent, had always been a part of Hogwarts legend, a secret hidden deep within the castle, far from the reach of students and even most professors. But Harry had uncovered something far more important than just a lost chamber. The chamber wasn't a mere location. It was a focal point for the magic of the founders, a place where Slytherin's most powerful enchantments had been sealed away, waiting for the right person to unlock them. But there was a deeper truth hidden in the words. A choice. The book didn't just speak of unlocking power, it spoke of the responsibility that came with it. The magic of the founders, and of Slytherin himself, was not something to be taken lightly. It was a force that could either protect the wizarding world or destroy it, depending on how it was used. The question Harry now faced was no longer about discovery, it was about purpose. What would he do with the knowledge he had uncovered? What would he do with the ring, the book, and the magic that had been buried for centuries? The weight of it all pressed down on him, and Harry felt the familiar ache in his chest, a mixture of excitement, fear, and the deep, quiet understanding that this was not just his journey. This was something far bigger than him. It was a legacy, a responsibility that had been placed upon him. And the choices he made now would have consequences that rippled far beyond Hogwarts's walls. He closed the book gently, taking a deep breath as he leaned back in his chair. His mind raced with questions, each one more pressing than the last. Why had the Founders chosen him to uncover this magic? Why had the Slytherin Ring appeared to him, of all people? And why did it feel as though the castle itself, Hogwarts, was waiting for him to decide its fate? Harry stared into the fire, his eyes unfocused, lost in the soft dance of the flames. He thought back to the conversations he had shared with Ron and Hermione, the countless hours they had spent together, working through problems and challenges. This was different, though. This wasn't a puzzle they could solve together. This was something Harry had to face on his own. The soft echo of the chamber's voice returned to his mind, faint but insistent. The choice is yours. And suddenly, Harry understood. The voice wasn't just a warning, it was a reminder. He had been given this power, this knowledge, because he was the one who could choose what to do with it. The magic of the Founders wasn't something to be simply unlocked. It was something to be understood, something to be respected. It was a tool, a force that could be wielded for good, but also one that could easily turn dark if used with the wrong intentions. The fire crackled softly, and Harry felt a deep sense of clarity settle over him. He wasn't just a student anymore. He was part of something much larger. This journey was no longer just about uncovering secrets. It was about making choices that would shape the future. And Harry knew that the magic he had uncovered was not something he could keep for himself. It was something that had been entrusted to him, something he was meant to pass forward, to protect. The room around him felt warmer now, as if the magic in the book had settled into his bones, grounding him in the present moment. He wasn't alone in this. The legacy of the Founders of Hogwarts itself was with him. He had a choice to make, but it wasn't a choice between good and evil. It was a choice about how to use the magic, how to ensure it was used for the betterment of the wizarding world, for the future of Hogwarts. The Slytherin Ring was a symbol of power, but it was also a symbol of wisdom, wisdom that came with great responsibility. With a sense of calm settling over him, Harry stood up, his fingers still resting on the cover of the book. The choice had been laid before him, but it wasn't just about power. It was about what that power meant, what it could do, and what he was willing to sacrifice to ensure it was used for the right purposes. The light from the fire cast soft shadows on the walls of the common room, and Harry felt the weight of his decision, not as a burden, but as a quiet understanding. He didn't have all the answers yet, but he knew the path ahead was his to walk. The Founders' magic had called to him for a reason, and it was now up to him to decide how it would shape the future. As he left the common room and walked toward the dormitory, Harry's steps felt lighter than before. The weight of the ring and the book, the ancient magic, still lingered in the back of his mind, but there was a sense of peace within him. whatever came next, whatever decision he made, would face it with the wisdom of the founders and the strength of his friends. The legacy of Slytherin was not his to claim, but the future of Hogwarts, the magic of the castle, and the choices he made now were all part of his journey. And with that thought, Harry Potter knew that the next chapter in his life was just beginning. The next few days at Hogwarts passed in a quiet blur. Harry could hardly focus on his classes, his thoughts always drifting back to the Slytherin Ring, the book, and the cryptic words that echoed in his mind. The magic he had uncovered was still fresh, and with each passing hour, it felt as though the weight of it settled deeper within him. Yet, as the hours wore on, Harry found a strange sense of peace settling over him, a quiet understanding that for the time being, there was no need to rush. He had made his choice. The path ahead would reveal itself when the time was right, and though the weight of the founder's legacy lingered like a gentle pressure on his chest, Harry had come to understand that this was a journey not meant to be rushed. He didn't need to act immediately. The magic would guide him, but only when he was ready. The castle seemed quieter now too, the usual bustle of students hurrying through the hallways, the clatter of dishes in the great hall, everything felt softer, as though Hogwarts itself had exhaled a long, slow breath, just as he had. The whispers of ancient magic that had filled his mind for days now seemed to be drifting away, replaced by a peaceful calm that seemed to settle into the very stones of the castle. It was as if the magic Harry had unearthed had woven itself into the fabric of Hogwarts, pulling back into the shadows, waiting for the next moment to reveal itself. The golden glow of the afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows of the great hall as Harry sat down for lunch, his friends settling in beside him. The usual chatter filled the air, but today it felt almost muted. There was a stillness to it, a feeling of quiet that Harry had never quite noticed before. The sense of urgency that had accompanied him through his recent discoveries had faded, and now he felt more like himself again. Ron was absent-mindedly poking at his food, his thoughts seemingly far away, while Hermione was discussing some new book she had found in the library. The conversation flowed around Harry, but he felt as though he were only half present, his mind occupied with what lay ahead. Even so, he couldn't help but feel grateful for this moment, this return to normalcy. He was surrounded by his friends, by the warmth and familiarity of Hogwarts. The magic that had nearly consumed him over the past few days now seemed to recede, replaced by the comfort of routine and companionship. Ron's voice broke through Harry's thoughts. "You all right, mate?" he asked, his tone concerned but soft. "You've been a bit off lately. Thinking about something?" Harry looked at his friend and smiled. There was no need to hide his thoughts. The mystery of the Slytherin Ring and the Founder's magic still loomed large in his mind, but the decision he had made felt solid now, not a burden, but a quiet resolution. The weight of it didn't press down on him with the same intensity it had before. Now, it was more like a soft murmur, one that guided him in the background rather than overwhelming him. "I'm fine, Ron," Harry said, his voice calm and steady. "Just processing some things, I guess." Hermione looked at him thoughtfully, her brow furrowed slightly. "You don't have to keep it all to yourself, Harry. You know that, right? Whatever it is, you can tell us." Harry nodded, appreciating Hermione's concern. He had always felt supported by his friends, and this was no different. He didn't feel the need to explain everything at this moment, but he was grateful for their presence. "I know. Thanks, Hermione." Ron grinned, his usual mischievous smile returning. "As long as it doesn't involve secret chambers or ancient magic that could destroy the world, I'm happy to leave you to your thinking." Harry chuckled, and the tension in his chest eased slightly. It was moments like this that reminded him of why he had always found comfort in Hogwarts, in his friends. Even in the face of the unknown, there was a sense of peace to be found in the familiar, in the people who cared for him and whom he cared for in return. The rest of the meal passed with the soft hum of conversation around them, the familiar voices of students filling the air. The weight of the ring and the book seemed lighter now, as though it were something that could wait for a while, something that would reveal itself in due time. The founder's legacy was still with him, but it wasn't something that needed to be solved today or tomorrow. The magic had been unlocked, and now it was up to Harry to decide when and if he would step forward to uncover more. Later, as Harry walked through the castle, his footsteps quiet on the stone floors, he found himself drawn back to the quiet places, the hidden corridors where Hogwarts' true magic lived. He wasn't running away from the choices ahead. He was simply taking time to breathe, to allow the answers to come in their own time. The ring, the book, the chamber, they were all waiting for him, yes. But Harry knew now that he didn't have to rush. The castle would guide him when the time was right. He walked slowly, savoring the calm of the evening. The castle was peaceful at this hour. The only sounds the soft murmur of students' voices from the distant classrooms and the occasional flutter of an owl's wings as it passed through the air. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, casting a serene glow over the windows of the castle. As Harry reached the entrance to the Gryffindor Tower, he paused for a moment, taking in the sight of the castle as it stretched out before him. Hogwarts was a place of wonder, of mystery, and of magic, but it was also a place of peace, of warmth, and of home. He didn't have to face the challenges ahead alone. He had his friends, and he had the castle itself, a quiet but powerful presence that would always be there for him. Stepping inside, Harry felt a sense of calm settle over him, like the gentle embrace of an old friend. The fire crackled warmly in the common room, the soft laughter of students filling the air. And for the first time in days, Harry allowed himself to relax, to simply be present in the moment, knowing that the path ahead would unfold in its own time. The choices he had made, the decisions that would shape his future, were still there, but for now, he could rest. The magic of Hogwarts was still with him, and he would face whatever came next with the same quiet strength that had carried him through so many challenges before. As the evening settled into night, Harry closed his eyes for a moment, the soft crackling of the fire lulling him into a state of quiet contentment. The future was uncertain, but he knew one thing for sure. He would face it with courage, with the wisdom of his friends, and with the understanding that some things, no matter how powerful, could wait until the time was right. And for now, everything was as it should be. As the warmth of the fire wrapped around him, Harry leaned back into the comfortable chair by the hearth, feeling the weight of the day's decisions gently lift from his shoulders. The crackling flames danced in the soft light, casting flickering shadows on the walls of the Gryffindor common room, their warmth filling the space with a sense of quiet contentment. For the first time in what felt like forever, Harry allowed himself to breathe deeply, taking in the calm, the steady rhythm of Hogwarts' heartbeat. It was the kind of peaceful evening that made the worries of the world seem far away, and for just a moment, everything was still. The sounds of distant chatter, the gentle rustle of students settling down for the night, all felt distant, yet comforting. It was the familiar hum of life at Hogwarts, a life Harry had come to cherish, even in its unpredictability. Despite the ancient magic he had uncovered, despite the weight of the Slytherin Ring and the legacy it carried, tonight, Harry was simply a student, surrounded by friends, in a place he called home. As he sat there, his fingers absent-mindedly tracing the cover of the ancient book, Harry reflected on everything that had unfolded. The discovery of the Slytherin Ring, the hidden chamber, the cryptic messages, it had all felt overwhelming. But now, in the quiet of the common room, it didn't feel quite as daunting. The answers weren't all here, and the path ahead wasn't clear, but Harry realized he didn't need to have it all figured out right away. Sometimes, the answers came when you were ready, and the rest of the journey unfolded in its own time. Ron's familiar voice interrupted his thoughts, light and full of humor. "Oi, Harry, if you're going to sit there and brood all night, you might as well go to bed." Harry chuckled softly, turning to look at his friend, who was already sprawled on the couch, grinning. "I'm not brooding," Harry replied, his voice light. "Just thinking." "Right. Well, you've done enough thinking for today," Ron said, giving him a playful nudge. "Don't forget, tomorrow's another day, another chance for adventure, just not as dramatic as today, I hope." The warmth of Ron's words, simple and grounded, reminded Harry of the comfort of normalcy. It wasn't about solving everything at once. It was about taking it one step at a time, trusting that the journey would reveal itself when it was meant to. And with his friends by his side, Harry knew that whatever came next, he would face it with courage. He stood, giving Ron a small smile. "Thanks, Ron. You're right. Tomorrow is another day." As Harry made his way upstairs to his dormitory, the weight of the book and the ring still lingering in his mind, he felt a quiet sense of reassurance wash over him. The future, with all its mysteries, was waiting, but for tonight, it could wait a little longer. Hogwarts would be there when he was ready, just as his friends always would be. And with that thought, Harry drifted off to sleep, the warmth of the castle and the magic of the founders quietly surrounding him, safe, calm, and ready for whatever the next chapter would bring.